The research vessel Curiosity drifted silently through the asteroid field, its sensors straining against the background radiation of deep space. Dr. Sarah Chen's fingers danced across the holographic controls, making minute adjustments to their trajectory. Her dark eyes reflected the shimmer of distant stars, searching for any sign of the anomaly she'd been tracking for the past 3 months. Warning: radiation levels exceeding safety parameters, announced Araya, the ship's eye. Recommended course correction. Bearing 047, Mark II. Sarah ignored the suggestion, her attention fixed on the energy signature flickering at the edge of their detection range. "Not this time," she muttered. "You're not disappearing on me again." The signature had appeared and vanished across 12 different star systems, always maintaining the same quantum frequency pattern. It defied known physics, suggesting either a massive technological breakthrough by an unknown civilization, or something far more extraordinary. A sudden surge of energy caused the ship's instruments to spike. Sarah leaned forward, her heart racing as she triangulated the position. Araya, full power to forward sensors. Calculate intercept course. Dr. Chen, that heading takes us directly through the densest part of the asteroid field. Collision risk exceeds 60%. Then make it 40%. You're good at that. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. After 5 years together, she and Aria had developed an understanding. The eye would protest, but ultimately trust her judgment. The Curiosity accelerated, weaving between chunks of space rock with precision that would have been impossible without its quantum-assisted navigation systems. Each passing minute brought them closer to the energy signature, which was now maintaining its position for longer than ever before. "Radiation patterns are changing," Araya reported, detecting quantum fluctuations consistent with error, unable to categorize. Sarah's fingers flew across the controls, adjusting their shields to compensate for the increasing radiation. The ship's interior lights flickered, and a low hum began to build through the hull. "Talk to me, Araya. What are we looking at?" "Energy signature is crystalline in nature, but it appears to be evolving. Growing. Dr. Chen, I strongly recommend." The ship lurched to a stop. Every system went dark simultaneously, leaving Sarah floating in absolute darkness. Even the emergency lights failed to activate. The only illumination came from the stars outside the viewport, and they seemed to be moving. Araya. Sarah's voice trembled slightly. "Status report." Silence. The darkness outside began to shimmer, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Geometric patterns of light began to form around the ship, creating intricate lattices that seemed to bend space itself. The structures were crystalline but alive somehow, pulsing with an inner radiance that defied description. As the pattern expanded, Sarah realized with a mixture of awe and terror that they weren't just watching the phenomenon. They were now at its center. The Curiosity had become enveloped in a vast network of living crystal that stretched for kilometers in every direction. The ship's systems suddenly surged back to life, but the readings they provided made no sense. According to the instruments, they were simultaneously in multiple spatial locations, as if the space around them had been folded like origami. Aria, begin recording all sensor data. Priority 1 protocol. Sarah's scientific training kicked in, overriding her initial fear. This was what she'd been searching for, proof of intelligence far beyond human understanding. Recording. Araya confirmed. "Dr. Chen, I'm detecting patterns in the crystal structure. They appear to be reacting to our presence." Sarah watched in fascination as the crystal lattice began to shift, forming new configurations that reminded her of neural networks. "It's trying to communicate," she whispered. A soft chime from her console indicated an incoming transmission from Earth Command. Sarah knew what they would say. "Return immediately. Do not engage. Wait for military support." Standard first contact protocols that would treat this magnificent being as a potential threat. But as she watched the crystalline entity continue its hypnotic dance around her ship, Sarah made a decision that would change the course of human history. She reached out and muted the incoming transmission. RIA. Begin broadcasting all known human communication protocols on all frequencies. Let's show our new friend we know how to say hello. The crystal structure pulsed brightly in response, and for a moment, Sarah could have sworn she felt a presence, ancient, vast, and undeniably curious, reaching out to touch her mind. First contact wouldn't be a story of conquest or fear. Not if she could help it. This would be a story of understanding, of bridging the gap between the unimaginably alien and the fundamentally human. The hunt was over. The real journey was about to begin. The Martian defense grid detected the alien ship first. It emerged from hyperspace trailing plasma and debris. Its hull breached in multiple places. The vessel's design was organic, almost insectoid. And it was dying. Colonel James Martinez watched from Mars Command as emergency teams rushed to intercept the craft before it could crash into the colony's agricultural dome. Status report. Life signs detected. His lieutenant reported. Multiple biosignatures, but they're fading fast. Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies. The message that filled the command center speakers was a mix of clicks and harmonic tones that the AI translators struggled to process. When they finally decoded it, the words sent chills through everyone present. Beware the world ender. The crystal death comes. We bring the only hope. The ship crashed 2 kilometers from the main colony, its impact sending clouds of red dust into the thin Martian atmosphere. Recovery teams in radiation suits reached it within minutes, cutting through the biomechanical hull to reach the survivors. Dr. Sarah Chen watched all this unfold through the quantum entanglement communicator on the Curiosity, her heart racing. The crystalline entity she'd discovered, which she'd spent the last 12 hours attempting to communicate with, hung silent and still around her ship. This is no coincidence, she muttered, reviewing the timing. These aliens, whoever they were, had arrived just as she was making first contact. The rescue feeds showed the aliens being rushed to medical facilities. They were massive creatures, nearly 3 meters tall, with iridescent exoskeletons and compound eyes that reflected light like prisms. Most were already dead, their bodies crumbling into crystalline dust. The sole survivor managed to interface with the colony's computers, transferring massive amounts of data before its vital signs began to fail. The information painted a horrifying picture. Thousands of civilizations discovered, contacted, and then completely erased by a crystalline entity that traveled between galaxies. They're calling it the World Ender. Colonel Martinez's voice crackled through Sarah's comlink. The weapon schematics they've provided. Dr. Chen, you need to get out of there now. Sarah glanced at the beautiful lattice of living crystal surrounding her ship. In the past hours, she'd observed it creating complex mathematical patterns, attempting to establish communication. Nothing about its behavior matched the violent destroyer these aliens described. Something's wrong, she said, pulling up the alien data. RIA. Analyze these patterns. Compare them to our observations. The ship's AI processed the information quickly. Inconsistency detected. The energy signatures in the alien records are inverse to what we're observing. If these readings are accurate, they're describing an entirely different phenomenon. The dying alien was speaking again, its translated voice filling emergency channels across the solar system. The weapon is keyed to their resonance frequency. One shot will save you all. We died to bring you this chance. Don't waste it. Sarah's fingers flew across her console, analyzing the weapon schematics. The design was elegant but strange. It seemed less like a destructive device and more like a containment field, she whispered. RIA. Run a simulation. What would happen if this weapon was used on our friend out there? The results confirmed her suspicion. The weapon wouldn't destroy the crystal entity. It would capture and compress it, potentially allowing someone to harness its ability to manipulate space-time. Earth Command, this is Dr. Chen. The alien data is deliberately misleading. The weapon they've provided. Static cut through her transmission as the dying alien released one final burst of energy. Across Mars' colony, systems began constructing the weapon using automated fabricators. Earth's defense grid activated, preparing for what most believed would be humanity's first interstellar war. But Sarah had seen something in the aliens' data that others missed. In the background of their rescue footage, just for a fraction of a second, she glimpsed another ship, one that matched perfectly with their own design aesthetic. These weren't refugees. This was an advance team. The crystal entity stirred around the Curiosity, its patterns shifting faster now. It was reacting to the weapon's construction, but not with aggression. The movements seemed almost familiar, like recognition. "They've been hunting you," Sarah said softly to the entity. "Haven't they? All this time, they'd been chasing you across the galaxy, trying to capture you. But why?" The answer would have to wait. Earth Command was preparing to launch the weapon, and Sarah had minutes to prevent humanity from becoming unwitting pawns in an interstellar conquest. She began broadcasting her findings, hoping someone would listen before it was too late. The real invasion wasn't the crystal entity. It was already here, wearing the mask of a dying race bearing gifts. Military vessels converged on the Curiosity's position, their weapon systems charged and ready. Sarah Chen watched them approach through the crystalline maze that surrounded her ship, her mind racing through possibilities. The entity had begun creating new structures in space, complex geometric forms that rippled with colors beyond human perception. "Final warning, Dr. Chen." Admiral Thompson's voice crackled through her comms. "Clear the target zone." "That's an order." Sarah's hands flew across her console, routing power to the ship's quantum computer. "Are you seeing these patterns? They're not random." "Affirmative," the AI responded, detecting complex mathematical sequences. "They appear to be teaching us their basics." The crystal structures were indeed forming equations, starting with simple arithmetic and rapidly progressing to advanced quantum mechanics. It wasn't building weapons, it was trying to establish a common language through universal mathematical constants. "Admiral, you need to see this," Sarah broadcast. "The entity is attempting peaceful communication through." A warning shot from one of the military vessels cut through space, deliberately missing the Curiosity by meters. The crystal entity's response was unexpected. It created a perfect replica of the energy burst in its lattice, then decomposed it into its fundamental mathematical components, displaying the physics of weapons fire as another lesson. "Fascinating," Sarah breathed. "It's not afraid. It's curious." Her ship's quantum computer began pulsing in rhythm with the crystal patterns. Aria's voice took on an unusual tone. "Dr. Chen, I'm detecting a coherent signal attempting to interface with our systems. It's beautiful." Sarah made a decision that defied every first contact protocol in the book. "Accept the connection, ARI. Full access." The ship's interior lit up with crystalline projections as the entity linked with their computer. Mathematical formulas danced through the air, evolving into complex multidimensional equations that described the very fabric of space-time. "Broadcasting to all vessels," Sarah announced. "The entity is sharing knowledge freely. These are secrets of the universe that could advance our civilization by centuries. Please, just look." The military ships held position, their commanders struck by the mesmerizing display. The crystal entity had begun creating massive structures that caught and bent starlight, forming what looked like living art in space. Each piece contained deeper layers of mathematical truth, revealing principles that human science had only theorized. But not everyone was convinced. "It's a trick," Admiral Thompson insisted. "These displays could be weaponry charging up." The alien warning was clear. The alien warning was a lie. Sarah interrupted, sending her analysis of the rescue footage. "Look at their ship design, their technology. They're not refugees. They're hunters, and they're using us." The entity suddenly shifted its patterns, creating a new structure that enveloped the Curiosity in a protective lattice. Long-range sensors detected multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace, vessels matching the refugee ship's design. More dying aliens, Sarah asked sarcastically. Or is this the real invasion force? The crystal being's response was to share more intensely, flooding the Curiosity's systems with data. Star charts appeared, showing its journey across thousands of galaxies. Each point marked an encounter with organic life, and each encounter ended in conflict. Not because of the entity's aggression, but because of fear and misunderstanding. Compile this data and broadcast it to the fleet, Sarah ordered. Show them what we're actually dealing with. The projection shifted to show the alien hunters appearing in system after system, always preceding the entity, always spreading tales of destruction that turned potential friends into enemies. Their true purpose remained unclear, but their pattern was undeniable. A military vessel broke formation, moving closer to examine the crystal artwork. Others followed, their crews captivated by the mathematical beauty being created before them. The entity responded by incorporating their ships into its equations, showing how human technology could be enhanced and improved through cooperation. "Admiral," Sarah said softly, "we're at a crossroads. We can either repeat the mistakes of 1,000 other civilizations, or we can be the first to actually listen." The crystal entity pulsed with new patterns, and Araya translated. It's offering to show us more. Not just equations, but memories. History from the dawn of the universe itself. Sarah smiled as she saw the military vessels power down their weapons. Sometimes the bravest choice wasn't to fight but to understand. As the entity prepared to share its memories, she couldn't help but wonder what other wonders, and what other dangers, awaited them in the vast cosmic sea of knowledge it offered. The connection between the Curiosity's quantum computer and the crystal entity felt like diving into an ocean of living light. Sarah Chen's consciousness expanded beyond the confines of her human perception as the entity shared its memories, turning space around them into a vast gallery of experience. "Recording everything," Araya announced, though the AI's voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Dr. Chen, your neural patterns are stable but changing. The entity is adapting its communication to match our cognitive architecture." Sarah floated in a sea of stars, watching the birth of galaxies. The entity's memories stretched back to the universe's infancy, when the first intelligences emerged from the cosmic dawn. She saw crystalline beings like her newfound friend taking shape in the hearts of dying stars, born from the pure mathematics of creation itself. "You're not just ancient," she whispered. "You're one of the originals, the first sentient beings." The memory space shifted, showing her countless encounters with emerging civilizations. The crystal entities had been teachers once, sharing knowledge with young species learning to reach for the stars. But something had gone wrong. A new race appeared in the memories, the insectoid beings who now hunted the crystals. In their original form, they had been beautiful, their hive minds capable of processing vast amounts of information. The crystals had taught them, trusted them, only to discover too late the darkness in their ambition. They wanted to control you, Sarah realized, watching the memories unfold, to use your power over space-time for their own ends. The next images were painful to witness. The insectoids had developed weapons that could capture and enslave the crystal beings, draining their essence to power impossible technologies. Most of Sarah's new friend's kind had been caught and consumed, their ancient knowledge twisted into tools of conquest. But the memories showed something else, something that made Sarah's heart ache. In every system, before attempting contact, the crystal being had created art. Mathematical sculptures of incredible beauty, each one unique to the civilization it was trying to reach. Even after countless betrayals, it never stopped trying to communicate through beauty first. "You've been alone," she said, understanding flooding through her. "The last of your kind, searching for someone who would see you as you are, not as a weapon to be used." The entity's response came not in words but in pure emotion. Loneliness so deep it seemed to echo through the cosmos itself. Sarah felt its joy at finally finding humans, seeing in them something it had sought for eons, the capacity to grow beyond fear and violence. The memory space rippled as new information poured in. The insectoid hunters had seeded thousands of worlds with false warnings, ensuring that any civilization the crystal being encountered would strike first and ask questions later. It was an elegant trap, used the universe itself as a weapon against the last free crystal entity. But they didn't count on human curiosity. Sarah smiled. We may be young, but we know how to question things. A warning pulse from Araya cut through the memory sharing. Multiple hyperspace signatures detected. The hunter fleet is moving into attack position. Earth Defense Force vessels are powering up weapons. The crystal being's memories shifted one final time, showing Sarah something it had never shared with any other species, the true nature of its power. It wasn't just art or mathematics or control over space-time. It was the ability to connect minds across any distance, to share understanding on the deepest level. That's what they really want, Sarah gasped. With your power, they could control entire civilizations, reshape consciousness itself. The memory space began to fade as Sarah's mind returned to her body. She found herself back in the Curiosity's cockpit, but changed by what she'd experienced. The entity had trusted her with its truth, showing her both its pain and its hope. Araya's voice returned to normal. Dr. Chen, the hunter fleet is demanding we hand over the entity. Earth Command is asking for your assessment. Sarah looked out at the crystalline lattice that had shown her the history of the universe itself. She thought about the loneliness of being the last of your kind, about the courage it took to keep reaching out despite endless rejection, about the difference between taking knowledge and sharing it freely. Tell them, she said firmly, that humanity is about to show the galaxy something new. The power of choosing understanding over fear. The battle for the crystal being's fate was about to begin. But thanks to what Sarah had learned in the Memory Palace, she knew it wouldn't be won with weapons. It would be won with the one force the hunters had never considered, the human capacity for empathy. The hunter fleet emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of metallic insects, their ship's organic curves gleaming against the starfield. Sarah Chen watched from the Curiosity as Earth's defense vessels moved to intercept, their formation tight but uncertain. The crystal entity's lattice pulsed with complex patterns, analyzing the approaching threat. They're broadcasting, Araya announced. Same frequency as the refugee ship. The message filled the command channel, its tone dripping with false concern. Humans of Earth, stand aside. We've come to save you from the world ender. Our weapon is already constructed in your Mars facility. Victory is assured. Sarah's fingers flew across her console, broadcasting the evidence she'd gathered. This is Dr. Chen to all Earth forces. The hunters are not what they claim. I'm transmitting proof of their deception now. But she was too late. The weapon on Mars had already activated, its energy signature building to impossible levels. The hunters hadn't waited for human permission. They'd infected the colony's systems with viral code, taking control of the device they'd so generously gifted to humanity. It was never meant to destroy, Sarah realized, watching the weapon's containment field take shape. They're trying to capture and enslave the entity, just like they did to all the others. The crystal being's response was unexpected. Instead of retreating, it expanded its lattice, creating a protective barrier around not just the Curiosity, but the entire Earth defense fleet. Its mathematical patterns shifted from theoretical physics to something far more complex, the equations of consciousness itself. My God, Sarah whispered, understanding dawning. You're not just showing us equations anymore. You're showing us who you really are. The entity's true nature became clear as it shared its perspective with every human in range. They saw through its ancient eyes. The joy of teaching young civilizations, the pain of betrayal, the horror of watching its kind hunted to near extinction. But most importantly, they saw its reason for choosing humanity. Admiral Thompson's voice crackled through the calm, changed by what he'd witnessed. Dr. Chen, the hunter fleet is powering up some kind of neural weapon. Energy readings are off the charts. Because they know we've seen the truth, Sarah replied. They can't allow that knowledge to spread. The hunters launched their attack, but not with conventional weapons. Waves of psychic energy washed over the human fleet, attempting to override their neural patterns with artificial memories. False histories of crystal beings destroying worlds, manufactured fear designed to turn humanity against their new ally. But the crystal entity had prepared them. Its lattice transformed the hunter's neural attack into pure information, letting humans see the manipulation for what it was. The false memories became a weapon against their creators, revealing the hunter's true history of conquest and enslavement. The Mars weapon is reaching critical power, Araya warned. Containment field will be ready in 3 minutes. Sarah broadcasted to all channels. Listen to me. The hunters aren't trying to save us. They want to enslave the last free crystal being to control the consciousness of entire civilizations. They've done it before, twisting the entity's power into a weapon of mental domination. We can't let that happen. The hunter fleet's commander finally revealed their true face, dropping the pretense of benevolence. You primitive humans, the translated voice sneered. We offered you safety. Now you'll share the crystal's fate. Your consciousness will feed our networks, your memories added to our collection. But something extraordinary was happening. The crystal entity's lattice had begun resonating with human brainwave patterns, creating a symphony of shared understanding. Every person connected to the network felt the truth, not through forced neural manipulation, but through freely offered knowledge. That's the difference, Sarah said, her voice filled with wonder. The hunters take and control. The crystal being shares and teaches. And humanity gets to choose. The Mars weapon reached full power, its containment field stretching across space like a net of dark energy. The hunters moved to spring their trap, confident in their technology's power over nature's mathematics. But they had never encountered anything like the combined will of humanity and the crystal entity. As the containment field rushed toward them, Sarah Chen smiled, knowing that the real battle wasn't for control of space-time. It was for the right to choose one's own path among the stars. The containment field from the Mars weapon swept through space like a tide of darkness, but something unprecedented was happening. Inside the crystal entity's lattice, human consciousness had begun to resonate at quantum frequencies, creating patterns that even the hunters had never seen before. Araya, Sarah called out, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. Broadcast everything. Every memory the entity shared, every piece of evidence we've gathered. The whole system needs to see this. The AI complied, and the truth exploded across every communication channel in the solar system. The crystal being's memories played out in full sensory detail, not just information, but lived experience spanning billions of years. Every human touched by the broadcast felt the entity's journey as if it were their own. They witnessed the birth of consciousness in the early universe, saw the first crystal beings emerging from stellar nurseries. They experienced the joy of discovery, of teaching young civilizations to reach for the stars, and they felt the deep wound of betrayal when the hunters twisted that knowledge into weapons of control. Impossible. The hunter commander's voice crackled with rage. Their primitive minds shouldn't be able to process this level of information. But humanity proved them wrong. Instead of being overwhelmed, human consciousness adapted, growing to encompass the vast scale of understanding being shared. The crystal entity had chosen well. The very qualities that made humans sometimes fearful and violent also made them incredibly adaptable. Sarah watched in awe as the containment field reached them, expecting to feel its crushing force. Instead, the field rippled and transformed. The hunter's weapon had been designed to trap and control through force, but it couldn't contain the freely given connection between human and crystal minds. The field is inverting, Araya announced. The weapon, it's becoming something else. The dark energy of the containment field blazed with new purpose, transformed by the mathematical principles the crystal being had shared. Humanity's collective understanding had turned the hunter's own weapon against them, creating a shield that protected both Earth's fleet and the crystal entity. Admiral Thompson's voice came through the comm, filled with wonder. "Dr. Chen, are you seeing this? Every ship in the fleet, our crews are thinking as one, but we're still ourselves. How is this possible?" "Because the entity isn't controlling us," Sarah replied, understanding flowing through her. "It's teaching us, showing us how to expand our consciousness while keeping our individuality, something the hunters could never understand with their hive mind philosophy." The hunter fleet launched a desperate attack, firing weapons designed to shatter both ships and minds. But they couldn't break the connection that had formed, a bridge between crystal mathematics and human creativity, between ancient knowledge and young wisdom. Throughout the solar system, humanity watched and participated in this moment of transformation. Scientists saw equations that unified physics in ways they'd only dreamed of. Artists felt inspiration in the pure mathematics of creation. Children grasped cosmic principles that had eluded their greatest minds. "Your species is young," the crystal being communicated, its thoughts now clear to all humanity. "But in your brief time among the stars, you've learned something my kind took eons to understand. The greatest power isn't in controlling knowledge, it's in sharing it." The hunters' neural weapons faltered against this unified consciousness. Their attempts to implant false memories met minds that could now see truth at the quantum level. Their hive mind technology, based on forced compliance, couldn't compete with freely chosen connection. Sarah Chen stood in the Curiosity's cockpit, a bridge between two forms of consciousness, watching humanity rise to its greatest challenge. They weren't just fighting off an invasion or protecting an alien being. They were proving that intelligence could evolve beyond the cycle of fear and control. "We need to end this," she broadcast to the fleet, "not through destruction, but through understanding. Show them what humanity has learned. Show them what real connection looks like." The crystal lattice pulsed with new energy as every human mind in range focused their shared consciousness toward the hunter fleet. They didn't attack. They offered knowledge freely, showing their adversaries a different path. In that moment, humanity demonstrated why the crystal being had chosen them as worthy students. They faced an ancient enemy not with weapons of war, but with weapons of wisdom. And in doing so, they began to reshape the very nature of first contact among the stars. The hunter fleet hung suspended in space, their ships caught in the radiance of combined human and crystal consciousness. Their neural weapons, designed to dominate minds, encountered something they had never been programmed to handle: willing synthesis between organic and crystalline thought. Sarah Chen felt the change rippling through reality itself. The crystal entity's mathematical patterns had merged with human brainwaves, creating a new form of awareness that transcended both species' limitations. Through this connection, she could sense every human in the fleet, each mind distinct yet harmoniously linked. "Their weapons are failing," Araya reported, the AI's voice carrying unusual emotion. "The hunter's neural network is destabilizing under the weight of actual human experience." The hunter commander's next transmission contained something new: uncertainty. What is this? "Our sensors indicate your minds are linked, but we detect no control patterns, no dominance hierarchies. How are you maintaining cohesion?" "Because we're not trying to control each other," Sarah broadcast back. "We're choosing to understand. There's a difference, one your hive mind never learned to recognize." Through the crystal entity's living lattice, humanity shared not just thoughts, but genuine experiences. The hunters, connected to this network by their own weapons, found themselves overwhelmed by the complexity of human emotion and empathy, concepts their society had engineered out of existence generations ago. They felt a child's wonder at first seeing the stars, a scientist's euphoria at discovering new knowledge, a parent's love, a friend's loyalty, an artist's passion. They experienced the full spectrum of human consciousness, from profound joy to deep sorrow, all accepted and integrated into a greater whole. "Impossible," the hunter commander insisted, but their voice wavered. Consciousness requires control. Order requires dominance. Your species is too young to understand. No, Sarah interrupted. We're young enough to still understand what your civilization forgot. Real connection can't be forced. It has to be chosen. Again and again, even when it's difficult. Especially when it's difficult. The crystal entity's lattice pulsed with new patterns, sharing its own revelation. For billions of years, it had searched the cosmos for worthy students, finding only species that wanted to take its knowledge by force. In humanity, it had finally discovered something different, a race capable of learning without losing their capacity for growth and change. The hunter fleet's neural network began to fracture as individual minds within their hives started responding to these new experiences. Memories long suppressed by their collective consciousness began to surface. Ancient feelings of connection, of joy, of individual worth. Their ship systems are crashing, Araya announced. The conflict between programmed control and awakening individuality is breaking their technology apart. Sarah reached out through the crystal matrix, offering something the hunters had never received before. A choice. You don't have to be what your ancestors engineered you to be. You can choose a different path. Let us show you how. The response came not from the commander, but from hundreds of individual hunters, their thoughts carrying the freshness of newly awakened minds. They had never known anything but the hive, never experienced consciousness as separate beings capable of making their own decisions. Through the crystal entity's living mathematics and humanity's emotional wisdom, they began to understand what they had lost, and what they could reclaim. Admiral Thompson's voice carried across all channels. Dr. Chen, the hunter ships, they're powering down. All of them. The crystal entity's consciousness expanded one final time, encompassing all minds in the system, human and hunter alike. In that moment of universal connection, a truth became clear to everyone. Evolution wasn't just about survival or dominance. It was about growth, about finding new ways to understand each other and the cosmos itself. Sarah watched as the hunter fleet's rigid formation dissolve, their ships moving into a new configuration that reflected their awakening individuality. The crystal entity's choice to submit to human guidance had led not to surrender, but to a transformation none of them had imagined possible. This, she said softly, feeling the wonder rippling through all connected minds, is what first contact was always meant to be. The crystal lattice shimmered with patterns of joy and discovery, its ancient knowledge finding new expression through the combination of human creativity and hunter awakening. On the edge of evolution, 3 species had found a way to grow beyond their limitations, not through force, but through the simple, profound power of choosing to understand. 1 year after the transformation in Earth's solar system, the crystalline halls of the Interstellar Academy of Consciousness curved through space, like a flowering garden of mathematics and light. Sarah Chen stood in the central chamber, watching students from 3 different species learn from each other in ways that would have seemed impossible months ago. The crystal entity, no longer alone in the universe, had shaped itself into a living university, a place where knowledge could flow freely between all forms of consciousness. Its latticed corridors housed laboratories where human scientists worked alongside reformed hunters, studying the fundamental patterns of reality itself. Professor Chen, a young hunter apprentice, approached, their once rigid exoskeleton now shimmering with individualized patterns. I've been studying the human concept of music. The mathematical harmonies are fascinating, but there's something else in it, something our old hive mind could never have understood. Sarah smiled, remembering how far they'd come. That something else is what makes music more than just mathematics. It's emotion, creativity, the unique expression of individual experience. Your people are learning to create your own songs now, aren't they? The hunter's compound eyes reflected rainbow patterns as they nodded. Yes, each one different. Each one. Ours. It's still strange, being individual. Beautiful, but strange. Through the crystal walls, Sarah could see Earth shining in the distance. The planet had changed too. transformed by the knowledge and technology freely shared between species. But humanity had insisted on maintaining their own pace of development, understanding that too much progress too quickly could be as dangerous as stagnation. The crystal entity's consciousness brushed against her mind, sharing images of other crystalline universities being born across the galaxy. Each one was unique, shaped by the species that helped create it. The entity had finally found its true purpose, not as a solitary keeper of knowledge, but as a living bridge between different forms of consciousness. Dr. Chen, Araya's voice came through her neural link, the AI now fully integrated with the Academy's systems. The first generation of human hunter hybrid ships is ready for testing. The crews are excited. The ships were a perfect symbol of their new cooperation. Crystal technology merged with human intuition and hunter precision. They could traverse not just space, but the boundaries between different types of consciousness, allowing their crews to explore the universe in ways no single species could achieve alone. A group of human students passed by, deep in discussion with their hunter teachers about the nature of individual choice within collective consciousness. The hunters, once trapped in their rigid hive mind, had become passionate advocates for balanced growth, understanding both the power of connection and the importance of personal development. Strange, isn't it? Admiral Thompson, now Earth's representative to the Interstellar Council, joined her at the window. A year ago, we thought we were facing an invasion. Instead, we found a way to grow beyond anyone's expectations. Sarah watched as the crystal entity created new teaching spaces, its patterns expressing complex ideas with elegant simplicity. We all had to learn. The entity learned that knowledge isn't just meant to be preserved. It's meant to be shared and built upon. The hunters learned that true strength comes from choice, not control. And humanity. We learned that we had something to teach, even to beings billions of years older than us. Thompson finished. The power of choosing to grow, to change, to connect without losing ourselves. The Academy's crystal halls resonated with a new harmony, the sound of three species' thoughts working in concert. In the laboratories, humans helped hunters rediscover their capacity for emotion. In the meditation chambers, the crystal entity taught both species to perceive the mathematical patterns underlying reality. And in the art studios, all three species collaborated to create works that could only exist through their combined perspectives. A soft chime indicated the beginning of Sarah's favorite class, Comparative Consciousness Studies. She taught it alongside a hunter philosopher and a crystal matrix specialized in cognitive patterns. Together, they helped students understand not just the mechanics of different types of consciousness, but the unique gifts each form of awareness brought to the universe. We're all students here, she often told her classes. And we're all teachers too. That's the real miracle we discovered among the stars. Not just that we could learn from each other, but that we could help each other grow into something greater than we ever imagined. The crystal entity pulsed with patterns of agreement, its ancient knowledge finding new life through the questions and insights of young minds. In choosing to submit to human guidance, it had found something far more precious than students or teachers. It had found equals, growing together in the infinite dance of consciousness and creation.